Welcome. Good morning. My name is Menika Patakandla, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. Welcome to Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm serving as your worship associate today, and I'm joined by our worship leader, Reverend Chris Rothbauer, whose pronouns are they, them, their. We are excited to welcome you to our worship service this morning. We're so glad to have you here, whether you're joining us in person or virtually, whether you're here for the first time or whether you've been here longer than you can remember. Here at Horizon, we welcome people of all faiths and of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome among us. As a community, we also welcome the sharing of joys, sorrows, and concerns. You're welcome to fill out a joys and sorrows slip on the table near the Welcome Center, in the pockets of the chairs, and on the joys and sorrows table in front of the sanctuary. And/or you are also welcome to light a candle. This can be done at any time before the service or in service from the beginning through the Offertory. Kent Darvin will come up and have an announcement for us regarding Art on the Horizon.
Good morning to you. The art exhibit that we hung this past week is a unique experience for our church. It's unique in that it's a mother-daughter exhibit. The mother is Angie Banta Brown. She's deceased. Her daughter is Alice O'Leary. And if we could have Alice stand. Angie is from New Brunswick and considered one of the best hill country artists in the area. Her focuses were primarily watercolor and oil painting. She had her studio behind their home, and she taught classes. One of her first youngest students was Alice. They functioned together, they played together, they learned together, they shared their love, and Alice got Angie's genes. And Alice's daughter, who is 27, has their genes as well, and she's an artist. Angie started the New Brunswick Art Guild while she was there living and painting. Her primary focuses were the hill country, still life, and also portraits. We have the good fortune that Alice lives in the White Rock Lake area. However, she teaches at the Dallas Crafts Guild of Dallas in Carrollton. 3 days a week, she teaches watercolor and oil painting. On Monday, she teaches watercolor in the morning. Wednesday, watercolor in the morning. And on Thursday, she teaches oil. Their artwork hangs in homes and offices across the United States. When you get a chance, it's worth going into the weekly newsletter and go down to Art in Horizon to read their statements about art. Two of the best description of a artist's statement that I've been able to read over the 3 years that I've been working with artists for our sanctuary. Thank you very much.
So I have our other announcement today, and Saj, you want to come up here and stand behind me? Sure. Helena, you want to come up here and stand behind me? I promised them they wouldn't have to speak today. Yes. So it's been a while since you all have gotten to do it, but in fact, it's been since you first called Reverend Laura that you've gotten to do it. But you might remember in Congregationalist traditions, we have what's called a service of installation, where you formally install me as your third settled minister of this congregation. It's a huge celebration. It comes once in a ministry, so if you miss it, you don't get another one until there's a new minister. That's not a hint. And this year, we're planning it for March 10th, 2024, here at Horizon. Now, I've got some exciting news to tell you about that's hopefully going to motivate you to really put it on your calendar. The sermon for the installation service is going to be preached by the Reverend Dr. Sophia Bittencourt, the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association. And that's not all. We want this to be really special, and so we're going to have a weekend of celebrations that's going to kick off on Friday night, March 8th, with a concert from Peter Mayer, who's a singer-songwriter out of Minnesota. And if you think that name sounds familiar, it's because he wrote Blue Boat Home. He's coming to Horizon. I don't think he's ever been to DFW before. This is going to be our primary fundraiser, so we need your help. Tickets go on sale to the general public on August 15th. However, November 15th. See, I knew there's a reason I asked them up here. However, I have a special discount coupon code that's in both the newsletter this week and in your order of service that you can go online and buy tickets now for $30 a piece. We also want to make this financially accessible, so we're asking if you have the ability to buy a ticket for someone who wouldn't otherwise be able to come. There's an option on the page where you can buy an extra ticket, and then I'll have the ability to give that ticket away to someone who would otherwise not be able to come celebrate with us. So please go online, buy your tickets, put it on your calendar, plan to be here. We're going to have more opportunities for you to be a part. Helena and Saj are both part of the installation committee, along with Carolyn Moore and Joel, who weren't able to be up here with us this morning. Because she's very far away right now. But I'll also have my laptop after the service, so if you would like me to help you buy a ticket, please come see me. We are really excited. Sophia and the Reverend Dr. Sophia and Peter are both very excited to be coming to DFW, and guess what? Since Sophia had to cancel her campaign appearance at First Unitarian, this is also the first congregation she's been to in DFW. So we hope to show all of our guests who come an amazing experience here at Horizon. So watch your newsletter, watch the announcements for more information. Thank you.
So one more thing. You might want to hide from me, because if I talk to you, I'm probably going to ask you to volunteer, because we are going to need a lot of volunteers to make this happen. We're going to need people to help with concessions and tickets and ushering for Friday. We're going to need people to help serve dinner on Saturday, and if you help serve dinner, you get a special time with the Reverend Betancourt, because that'll be a smaller group. So think about that. And then on Sunday, the installation will need a lot of help for that too. So look at your calendar, and if you have openings on that weekend, or you want to put openings on that weekend, contact me, and I would love to have you work with me. Thank you.
We gather this morning because others came before us. Some left examples for us to follow, others lessons for us to learn from. And the paradox is that many have left both pain and joy. We honor our ancestors this morning, not because they're perfect, but because without them, we would not be here together, sharing our joy, our pain, our living, and our dying.
Our chalice lighting this morning is from Jean L. Wallstrom. In this small flame dwell the beacon light of lanterns guiding travelers home, the warmth of hearth fires tended through the generations, the transforming energy of furnaces, and the power and life of our sun. May these blessings, warmth and light and life-giving energy be kindled in each of us. Please join me in our affirmation, which is printed on the back of your order of service and projected on the screen. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 311 in the gray hymnal, Let It Be a Dance.
Hello, my name is Madeira McKee. I was asked to come up here and share a little bit about generosity, as that is our monthly theme, and why I give to Horizon. And so I wanted to just share just a little bit. I've been coming to Horizon since somewhere around 2000, when our little girl Mira, she was starting to get questions about what church do you go to, and are we Christian or what are we? And like, oh crap, I need to go find something. And my husband's grandparents had said, you got to go try this church. It's got young people and kids and whatever. And we're like, church, smirch, no, I'm not going to do this. You know, I was like, oh, God, it's going to be one of those graciously submit churches or something. And I'm like, no, feminist, I can't do that. So I was like, so anyway, we brought Mira here. There was the Halloween party, and Mira just had so much fun. And she was the one who kept on making us come back. She was like, we need to go back to the church with the kids. And so it's just been, we have 3 children, and it's just been fun to sit over here and watch them out on the playground and have them get a decent religious education. So we give our time, we try to give our talent, try to give our treasure. My talent, I try to do some women's groups, some journey groups, and that's something fun that I like to do. But it really made my heart proud when our daughter, who's now 25, was off in New York, and when she was first there, she wasn't making friends, and so what did she do? She started to look at the UU churches in New York, and I was verklempt. I was, oh my God. No, so it's just a great place to be. Whether or not you have kids, stuff to do, come here and let it be a dance we do.
Before we start our Time for All Ages, I just want to remind everyone that Horizon partners with MetroCrest Services to help people in need in our area. And each Sunday, you're encouraged to bring shelf-stable food items for their pantry and also toiletries like personal care products, diapers and wipes for babies, and so on and so forth. And a list can always be found in our Horizon newsletter, but no glass items, please. And so if you did bring some donations today, I'm gonna ask our children to come sit in the front rows, please. And as they pass, please pass your donations to them, and they may go in the basket up here. So right now, I would like to invite our young and young at heart to the front row for a story. Well, welcome everybody. It's really good to see everybody. And I'm so glad I really do need your help today to tell a story. Oh, can someone help Mr. Bruce over here? And Bruce, you can stay for the story too. So, I have a question for our folks that are assembled here. So, did you ever wonder how you became you, the unique person that you are today? So, we're going to do an activity together with Menica helping. Okay? So, this empty glass represents you, and we're going to add parts to it to show all that makes you who you are. So could you tell me about something special about yourself that makes you you? That makes, like, do you have any special talents? Yeah, go ahead. Say it real loud. Oh, I can't be real loud. Oh, cartwheels. Let's go ahead and put some colorful thing in there for cartwheels for sure. Okay, what other special things? Oh, something. Okay, somebody said they have ADHD. Well, and we all have something, right? Okay, we're going to put that in there. But that does make you you. Yeah, a lot, yeah, there's a lot of neurodivergent people. Oh, yes, go ahead. Love. Oh, I love that one too. Oh, we have another one. Go ahead.
Apparently, I am always very energetic, and I never really get tired, and I really never get
Oh, wow. Somebody is telling me they have lots of energy and they never get tired. Wow, I would love that. I love that to be part of me. I think we can take one more, maybe. Go ahead. Oh, say it again, real loud. Floppy? Can you show me what floppy is? Oh, okay. Seems like this person is very easygoing, and I think that's really good. Now, oh, okay. Well, I noticed that you didn't talk about your DNA. Can somebody tell me what DNA is? Do you know what DNA is? Yeah, it's your blood inside of you and even tinier. Yeah, it goes, actually, it's not only in your veins, it's all over your body. It's your what? Oh, it's in your saliva? Yes, it's what is in your cells. And so I have a question for you. Where do you get that DNA from? Where does it come from? The air? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, it comes from your body. And I'm just going to say it comes from your parents. And so let's go ahead and do our parents there, right there. Yeah. All right, and now I'm going to take one more special thing that makes you, you. Did anybody want to say anything? We had some people that didn't answer. Do you want to answer, Menica? Sorry. Sorry, Menica. Oh, Menica said she's Indian. I love it. So let's go ahead and put that last one in. Okay. Today, the grown-ups are talking about our ancestors. Okay? Does anybody know what an ancestor is? Oh, yeah, they could have passed away. That's true. They could have died. But what else about them? Go ahead. Oh, people like us, but they're not exactly the same as us. That's right. Actually, they might have passed some of their DNA over to us. Go ahead.
It's your relatives.
Oh, your relatives too. That's right. That's right. So what we say is, so an ancestor is someone you descend from. That means that their parents had somebody, and then if you go back, their parents had them, and then their parents had them. It's your ancestors. So let's go back to our vase here. When I asked you about DNA, Menica poured the purple layer. Could I, if I wanted to, could I get all the purple out of there? No, not really. I mean, I guess you could spend a really, really long time, but there's a reason for this. This is because our ancestors, the people that came before us that we descended from, are always with us. They're in our DNA, they're in our cells. We learn, if they're still alive, we learn things from them, and they're always with us. We cannot separate out our ancestors from who we are. And so, in some ways, I think that's very comforting to know that our ancestors are always with us in one way or another. And today, the grown-ups are going to be remembering and honoring people that they love, their ancestors, or maybe somebody who is like an ancestor to them. Yes, one last comment.
There's no way I can actually see my ancestors because my grandma is like 86 years old.
Oh.
And there's no way I can actually see.
Okay, it was saying that you can't always see your ancestors. That's true. Either they live out of town or they might have passed away, but they're still with us in our hearts, in our DNA, and in our minds too, right? All right, thank you so much for being such great folks, helping me tell this story. And thank you to Menica for helping too. We're going to go ahead and sing you out to your classes now.
Good morning. My name is Saj Survey. My pronouns are he, his. I wear many hats, literally and figuratively, at Horizon. Member of the Board of Trustees, member of the Installation Committee, member of the choir. Currently, I'm here to talk to you as a volunteer. So our Share the Plate partner for this month is Feed My Starving Children, which is a Christian nonprofit organization based out of Richardson. You have the information about the org in your order of service in this green handout, which gives you a lot of information about the group itself. Myself and my family, we volunteered at the last Horizon outing to Feed My Starving Children. And I just wanted to share a little bit about our experience with them. It was a really, really fulfilling experience, and we look forward to doing it again this coming month. When you show up, they do a quick orientation video, and then they explain what the announcement talks about food insecurity around the world and the fact that over 6,000 children die each day from conditions related to malnutrition or starvation. And so this org worked with food scientists to create very small bags of shelf-stable food that can be shipped all around the world. And these bags are pennies of cost. And all the ingredients, they source the ingredients through donations. And then they have volunteers like us come to actually put the packets together. And it's a really fun team building activity. You get the opportunity to work as a team. Our whole family was one team. And so you put rice and dehydrated vegetables and protein powder and various vitamins and minerals into a bag. And there's a quality control process to make sure that everything meets standards, and then it's sealed and then packaged up. And you do this for a few hours along with other teams. And then at the end, all the people that were involved with the food process get together, and they have a big announcement where they tell you how many kids you were able to feed with the work that you did in that couple of hours. And for us, in 2 hours, we were able to provide enough food for 60 children for a year, just based off of that work. And so the packets that are made have been shipped to over 111 countries across the world over the years that Feed My Starving Children has been around. And so I think it's a really worthwhile organization to support. There's a QR code if you want to scan with your phones, or if you donate during the Offertory, that money will also benefit Feed My Starving Children. So we hope you will give kindly and generously. Thank you.
Thank you, Saj. Unitarian Universalism is a grand vision of a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. That vision is embodied in a few large organizations, numerous mid-sized organizations, and many, many small organizations. No matter its size, every congregation depends on each of its members. Each one of you, by your commitment of time, energy, and resources, helps make that grand vision real. Individually and together, we as Unitarian Universalists are building a world filled with peace and joy, love and justice. Thank you to all our members and friends who pledge and give electronically. If you would like to give electronically, you may do so on the Breeze app or online at horizon.org/give. The offering will now be joyfully given and received.
The long summer has faded now, and these first days of November mark the beginning of the coming of winter. The frost has taken our tender plants, leaves have begun to fall from the trees, and geese begin to arise from the north. The days are cooler, the weather unsettled, and the evenings are suddenly dark. Our children have played with death and fear. Christians have marked All Saints and All Souls Days, both holidays, commemorating the dead, and our Chicani neighbors have celebrated the Day of the Dead. If we were members of traditional Mexican families, we might go to have a picnic on the graves of our family members, celebrating, remembering, and honoring. Most of us are far from the grave sites of our ancestors, but we can also honor those who have gone before us, and we will do that after this reading by inviting any who wish to come forward and silently light a candle for their own beloved dead. There are candle stands on both sides of the platform, and I'll give you instructions on the best way to line up when it's time. At this darkening time of year, our thoughts turn to things past, to life retreating, to those who are no longer with us. Images come to our minds of dear companions who once graced our lives, loved ones whom we miss, persons whose lives made an impact on our lives. Of all those who were here, contributing, caring, and are now gone. Our memories bring both joy and sadness. Let us not push these feelings away, for our recollections attest to the enduring importance of these friends, this love, our memories. May these brave and lovely spirits live again in our tender thoughts and prove that death and distance are powerless to sever the bonds that truly connect loving hearts. I would ask you at this time to think of who your ancestors are, either of blood or of spirit, and if you would like, call out their name into the silence, or if you're watching online, you might type it into the chat box. And now I would have us recall those members of this community who have died during this last year. Menica is going to help me by lighting a candle for each of them. And after I call them their names, I'll invite you to come forward and light your own candle for those you would honor and remember. The easiest way is if you come up on the back and around, grab one of these lighters and light your candle, or if steps are hard or you would like a little bit of help, Menica and I will both be up there to assist. Church members and friends who have died during the last year are Diana Bracken, Audrey Gail Hall, Jana Wertheim, and Roland Harvey. At this time, I invite you forward to light your own candles. I also honor the ancestors who are represented on our altar behind us and those who are held in the silence of our hearts. Will you please join me in the spirit of prayer or meditation in whatever way feels right? Spirit of life, whom we know best in our own loving and being loved, help us remember those we have loved and those who have loved us. May our gratitude spark in our lives. May our tears lubricate our souls. Help us to know that we are not alone in our grieving, and help us also to come to that peaceful place in which we can take what we learn from those who have gone before us in our own lives. Remind us that we too are mortal, and that the only enduring legacy we have is that love that shines through our lives. Blessed be, and amen. We now take time to honor the sorrows and joys of this community, knowing that we are all interconnected and that what affects one affects us all. Deb Freeman shares a concern for peace in Palestine. Kent Darwin shares a concern on behalf of Kay that Kay is recovering from a TIA stroke that affected her ability to talk. She is speaking normally now. Natalie shares a joy that she got a new job. A joy that there will be a meet and greet of Alice in the back of the sanctuary after the service. And Lauren Daniel shares a joy for all the wonderful volunteers who fixed up the playground yesterday. And we light one more candle this morning in honor of all the joys and sorrows which have gone unspoken and reside only in our hearts. Please join me in the spirit of prayer or meditation in whatever way feels right with these words from Lori Walkie. After the reading, we'll have a space of silence, which will be broken by our responsive hymn, number 1010 in the gray hymnal, We Give Thanks. Holy ones, on this day of remembrance, we say aloud their names again, the names of those who have died this year. Died. The word is jarring, so jarring that we hardly use the word, substituting euphemisms that are a bit more vague. Sometimes people say lost when what they mean is dead. We lost so-and-so this year, but people who die are not lost. They are not misplaced. We did not just lose sight of them, nor did they wander off. They died, and it is as final as the word sounds. But that is, of course, why we don't say they died. When people die, they do not just disappear and we continue on. There is no such thing as out of sight, out of mind. There is no switch to flip to turn off our feelings. The person may not be lost, but we are at a loss for words, for normalcy, for what was and what could have been. And grief is such an unyieldly thing. We are first fine 1 minute, years even, and then deep sadness comes, seemingly out of nowhere. That's the thing about people who are loved. Their memories keep. They're never too far away. They come to us in a song lyric or a line of movie dialogue or a long walk. What was it they always said? Oh, that's right. And they always had to have it a certain way. So maybe we'll do it that way and laugh a little in memoriam. Be with us, holy ones, as we grieve over the empty chairs at the table. We'll light a candle and say an extra prayer, and we trust with sure and certain hope that they were had before we let them go. Blessed be.
This reading comes from Caleb Parker and is entitled What We Choose. A few years ago, my little sister moved in with me from our native Los Angeles to the coast of Maine. The move brought a lot of firsts for her: snow, the Atlantic Ocean, and seeing me as an older brother instead of an older sister. Neither of us was sure what to do that first night she lived with me, because what are you supposed to do? At 22, you suddenly have your very own teenager. We ended up at one of those DVD kiosks. When it asked for my zip code, I punched the number 9 before correcting myself and typing the 0 that starts off the zip code for Bar Harbor. Still, my sister asked. I'd started the zip code for back home. It had been 10 years since I moved away. My sister's arrival brought part of my past into my very different present, and this suddenly forced everything out of the hiding places I'd been keeping them in. I had put home into a box and stuffed it into the farthest depths of my closet. I got lost without it for a while, but then I found communities that seemed to make sense in a way that my family never did. I used to scoff at the idea of chosen family because it seemed like a feel-good characterization to use when your family of origin didn't work for you. I never really embraced it for myself until I started thinking about ancestry rather than parentage. Like so many people my age in the United States, my identities are all mixed up and only partially visible. The more mixed up our identities get, the more important our choices become. Ancestry is no longer just a question of fate or genetics, but of whose shoulders we stand on. My genetic families of origin aren't necessarily recognizable when you look at me, but my chosen family, those queers and religious liberals of the past, present, and future, come shining through. I embody that history when I walk out the door because they made it possible for me to walk out the door as an openly transgender seminarian. They are my history more completely than anything I was born into. I used to think that meant family of choice was no place to call home, but it's not that simple. Every time we move toward liberation, we can do so because those who came before us. Those who come after us will move more easily because of what we have accomplished. This is not something limited to queer people whose families are giving them a hard time. We all choose, and sometimes that dividing line between choice and birth disappears. My sister never embraced the East Coast the way I did. She moved back home, but we talk now. She'll text me, "Hey bro, we've chosen each other," just as we've found different ancestors to lean on and have established our own networks of support. We've chosen different todays, are making different tomorrows, and have different pasts. Yet we also share a common history, and now we are a part of each other's todays and tomorrows as well. Here ends the reading.
Before I begin my homily, I want to acknowledge that just a moment ago I was handed a piece of paper that a name was left off of the list of folks who had died in the past year. So I'm going to ask Menica to light one more candle for Chrissy McFarland, who also died this past year. And if we did forget anyone else, please know it was not intentional. We just simply had an imperfect way of keeping track of them this year. In preparation for this service, I did something I've never done before. See, like many descendants of white people in this country, I grew up with very little sense of where I came from in the world. I knew that my paternal great-grandparents were immigrants from what is now Slovakia, but they died long before I was born, and with them, any chance of maintaining family stories from the old country, since they did what many Eastern European immigrants did in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. They tried to forget their past in order to assimilate into this country, to convince the ruling power that they were white, with as little friction from the dominant Anglo-Saxon power as possible. And I knew next to nothing about my mother's side except that they were hill people, descended from miners and farmers in rural southeastern Kentucky, one of the most isolated parts of the state and still one of the poorest in the country. In fact, other than a couple stories here and there about one guy who claimed to have been 130 years old, I know I feel that way some days, I hadn't known much about them. But I've since come to find out that we're descended from a mountain preacher of Welsh origins who seemingly populated half the county. He was the illegitimate son of a woman who came from the Quaker Welsh Morgans of New England. I wanted to know more, especially since traditional genealogy was leading me to dead ends. So I took a DNA test. The results are I'm very, very white. Parts of it were no surprise, like how nearly half my DNA comes from England. No surprise with names in my family like Warren and Whitehead and Hoskins. But there were surprises. Apparently, there's a decent amount of my DNA which comes from Scandinavian and even Balkan ancestry, which is not a part of my family story at all. And the negligible amount of Welsh DNA on my mother's side, despite having a Welsh surname, leads me to suspect that we were English sent to Wales by the monarchy to keep those pesky peasants in line. Now, all of this, combined with some genealogical research, has given me a sense of who some of my ancestors of blood are. People who were flawed and products of their day, slave owners and the very poor alike, abusers and the abused, aristocracy and peasants, rulers and the ruled. Virtually every religion and culture around the world has practiced some sort of ancestral veneration, recognizing the contributions of those who came before us, made us. We see this in Japanese prayers on behalf of the dead, Buddhist recitals of spiritual lineages, Jewish genealogies of those who came before them, Native American prayers to their ancestors, and the Mexican practice of Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Dead, that happened last weekend. Now, it's because my ancestors of blood were so flawed that I often find it difficult to practice ancestor veneration, despite the fact that it's part of the spiritual practices that I hold. My question I've always had for my teachers has been, how do we deal with our ancestors who were just huge jerks? People who I honestly don't want much to do with and really don't want to be associated with. After all, even Hitler's own sister changed her name after the war. The truth is, that's still an open question for me. Yes, I would not be here today if it were not for them, but I also might not have some of the emotional scars and the generational trauma that I carry as a result of their actions. And while that sounds like a bad name and bad thing, and well, truth be told, I would rather not have them, they have made me the person I am today. So how do we reckon with an imperfect ancestral line? And more pointedly, should we venerate our ancestors who came before us? Most of this seems to assume that ancestor veneration is purely about recognizing those with the same DNA as us, those whose life force created us. But there's a hint in the Buddhist recreation of spiritual ancestors that I want to point out. For many cultures, ancestry isn't just about those whose blood flows through our bodies, the ancestors of blood. Indeed, it's also about ancestors of spirit, those whose words and deeds shaped us into who we are today. In fact, the root of the word ancestor points to a sense of people who preceded us, not merely familial relations. Certainly, my family has had a lot of influence over who I've become, but I would not be here before you today if they were the only influence. I did not come from a Unitarian Universalist family. After all, to my knowledge, I'm the first Unitarian Universalist in my family, although I would like to know more about those Quakers I'm apparently descended from. My spiritual ancestors are the people whose words and deeds shape me to be who I am today. People like the Reverend David Shaw, the former minister of Upper Chapel in Sheffield, who nurtured me and encouraged me to pursue my calling into ministry. Or seminary professors like the Reverend Mark Morrison Reed, Reverend Dr. Nicole Kirk, Dr. Sharon Welch, Mark Harris, and Mike Hogue, whose rigorous courses of study shaped me into the person I am today. Or Reverends Don Cooley and Deborah Falk, my internship supervisors, who pushed me to grow not just into a minister, but as a person. But spiritual ancestors need not be people who I've met or even people who have lived during my lifetime. People like Martin Luther King Jr., Sylvia Rivera, Bayard Rustin, and the Buddha echo through my heart and my life with wisdom that continues to influence the way I live my life to this day. When I venerate my ancestors, I do sometimes venerate my ancestors of blood because I would not be here without them in a quite literal sense. And some I don't venerate at all because I don't need their energies in my life. As a Druid priest once said to me, if you wouldn't pick them up as a hitchhiker, don't pick them up in your ancestor veneration. But I venerate my ancestors of spirit because they shaped me into the person I am today, a person who wants to make the world a little better place to live. And yes, ancestors of blood can be ancestors of spirit, as my mother, with her determination to help me live a better life than the one she did, certainly is for me. This morning, if you were to open up to the idea of ancestors of spirit, I wonder who you would find in your spiritual family tree. We named some of them this morning in our ritual, and we have others, the names of people like Marty Robinson and the Reverend Dennis Hamilton and the Reverend Laura Brandis echo through the halls of our church still to this day. More than that, though, every person who has passed through the doors of this church and found a home left a little piece of themselves that reverberates to this day. You and I, we are but the current generation of this church. We are writing the narrative for the next. The people who will find us years from now and say, I wish I discovered this place sooner. I'm of the opinion that there's something to learn from all of our ancestors of both blood and spirit. Sometimes the lesson will be as simple as don't be like them. But other times, there's a deep yearning from the echoes of times past that calls us to be the best selves we can. This is what novelist Ralph Ellison meant when he said, some people are your relatives, but others are your ancestors, and you choose the ones you want to have as ancestors. You create yourself out of those values. I shape myself from those who came before me and hope that I will be able to live up to the example they left. I hope that one day, yes, many years from now, don't worry, there will even might be people who say I was an ancestor to those who came after me. Maybe that's the best lesson in talking about ancestry, that I make choices every single day of who I will be and what kind of world I create. When I know who my ancestors are, I can more consciously choose what sort of person I will be, forsaking the supremacy of our past, or even choosing our families, as in our second reading, where we will find home. I know the topic of ancestry is difficult for many, but this is my challenge this morning. Your ancestors don't all have to be the people who raised you, although they certainly can be. Who are your ancestors? And why aren't they on the table if they aren't? As we talked about a few weeks ago, I'm constantly creating a world that I'll leave behind to the next generation. So will I be an ancestor that others want to venerate? Or will I be the one who they wouldn't pick up if I was a hitchhiker? Perhaps only time will tell for sure. But with the great cloud of witnesses of my ancestors as my guides, I can learn from the past to make a better future for myself and for the planet. May it be so.
We extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. This we do because we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world. I would like to invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 1074 in the Teal hymnal, Turn the World Around.
Oh
Yes.
Our benediction is by Layla Derlin Jones. For those who came before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love. And may we go forth from this time and place. Let us be inspired by their courage, their wisdom, and their dreams. Let us honor them by doing the work of living boldly, loving mightily, and creating heaven on earth. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.